Loud. Sounds like I did it.
All right, I'm gonna call to order this meeting of the Charlottesville Human Rights Commission. Um, let's start. Todd, are you ready to take the roll? Would you like to take the roll?
Sure, I will do that. Heather,
I'm here.
and we're waiting for Dawn. Elizabeth,
I'm here.
Jason.
Here.
Aldi is not here. Marianne is not here. Suzanne, we know, couldn't make it. Okay. So no quorum yet, but we are hopeful.
Okay, thank you so much. How about we go ahead and recite the mission, which I'm not sure if everybody has in front of them. It's on the agenda. It's not, okay, I'll just start. Maybe it'll just be me. Our mission is to act as a strong advocate to justice and equal opportunity by providing citywide leadership and guidance in the area of civil rights.
Forgot how
I
awkward
just
that
did
was
like
over
what I
Zoom.
do in church, where you're like, dear blue.
Yeah, right.
Get the agenda up in time.
Right.
I thought
And
I
just like
knew
a little
it,
bit of
but I
this.
didn't know it.
Well, I read it every single time, which it's sort of like using Google Maps for directions. It's like, well, I'm just so used to relying on this thing, like on the placard. Um, okay, for members of the public who are participating virtually, if we have any, if you experience any technical difficulties, you can call 434-970-3115 and a staff member will assist you. I'll open for public comment. I don't think we have any public comment. I don't see anyone else. So we can move on.
We do have attendees. Let me take a
Do
look.
we have attendees? Okay.
Yeah, the
I don't
view
see
just
attendees.
changed, and now I cannot find them. So
Oh, I do see 8. We have 8 participants. Okay.
3 attendees. You 5 are we 5 are the.
Oh, and then we have attendees. Okay.
Yeah.
Katrina, oh wait, no, I don't need to read everyone's names. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi,
Yeah, so
attendees.
just use the raise hand function, or if you're on a phone, you can use *9. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. Yes, if you'd like to raise your hand to make any sort of comment. Okay, I don't see any hands raised. We will come back to matters of the public after we get through our work session. So you'll have a second chance if you would like to say anything. Okay, I'm closing that section, but if anyone sees anything, let me know. Okay, so I say we go ahead and start talking about the local policy recommendations. Even if we don't end up with quorum, I think we could possibly call another either emergency meeting or it's not an emergency meeting, but like a special meeting, or we could just do the regular meeting on the 20th and make it really brief. I can certainly get on. I just would have to be online to do it. So that's all. So we could do that. But I have the SharePoint doc here. Todd, do you think it's best if you share it? Because then I can be taking notes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should take my notes in that doc or if I should take them.
Let's do that. Let me go ahead and get that up. I'm going to make sure it's the thing that's on the screen and not something else that I have open. Looks like it is. Here we go. Let's see. I got to pick which screen it is. Looks like this one. And here we go. How's that looking? Nope, that's the wrong one. Please don't look at that. Oh my.
Oh,
Did I actually share that?
I think that is it.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
It has comments from you that I hadn't seen.
Okay, good. I'm so sorry. I have so many things open that I thought, and it minimized your screen, and I thought it was showing you something that you should not be seeing.
No,
Very good.
I don't think so.
No, I think it's right. Yeah.
Can you guys see it? Okay.
Everybody's good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I had a brief moment of panic there, but I feel much better.
Would you like share your email box or something?
Like, here it is.
Mhm. Mm, okay. So I really extrapolated like all of this from our meeting. I don't think there's very much at all that isn't just like us talking and put into recommendations form or, note form. And then you know, we can do something consolidated, obviously. Like there's a part of me that thinks after looking at the city level recommendations that the city actually put up, that I was like, maybe fewer recommendations are good because a lot of our recommendations ended up as positions for the city instead of actual recommendations. And I was like, okay, maybe we're like, we don't want to dilute things too much. We want to make sure that we really like, instead of having 10, maybe we have 4 or something like that. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
I agree that keeping it pretty tight is a good idea. I would also just say, I don't know if folks had a chance to read the update that I shared from Shayla at Brock. But they're already kind of identifying a lot of the stuff that we talked about as essential. So I do feel like we would just actually be reiterating a lot of stuff that's already on the wish list, already on the radar.
Mhm.
So I think we can keep it pretty tight.
I think I think that's a good idea. I mean, I think we should still recommend those things because it would be like if we didn't, it would be kind of not great if it looked like we didn't think those things were important. But I think you're right. We don't have to maybe explain every last bullet point.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. Like we can list out the things we recommend, but with an understanding that they fully grasp the background and probably are hearing this from multiple sources.
Jason or Todd or Lily, what do you guys think?
I think I agree with like, yeah, being succinct.
And I can also tell you that I have some kind of follow-ups both on the things that Elizabeth presented in her email and on some of the items in the draft as well. So when you're ready for those to get into details, I can share that.
I think we should hear them. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree.
And I did read your document, Elizabeth. I imagine Jason did too, but if not,
Yeah, I
you know,
did.
okay,
Yeah, sounds great.
cool. I just say go whenever you're ready, Todd. We'll be happy to.
My
But
apologies.
take your time
I
if you
didn't know
need
you
to.
were waiting for me.
No. We're talking.
So just, and when you said Elizabeth's document, you were referring to the email, correct? Or was it something else?
Yes, sorry, not the
Okay.
document, but
No,
like
I
the
just wanted to
update
make
from
sure I
Shayla.
was, so one of the things about transportation, so there's been some discussion about a door-to-door service, or just making sure that the bus shelter and the access from the bus shelter, which I believe is about I think it's 800 feet from the front door of the new proposed shelter. And so making sure that the corridor there is ADA accessible. Because there may be some discussion about, if there's a specific shuttle to that facility, why do we not have specific shuttles to other facilities that serve people who may have different needs as well? And so just like maybe something to consider is there going to be any kind of concern, like why are we prioritizing creating a shuttle for this place and not maybe other places that have people who could also use a door-to-door service. And so just food for thought. With regard to the elevator, apparently there's a lot of discussion about, I think the renovations themselves are actually going to cost like more than the property on the inside, like almost double. And there is still discussion on whether or not they'll build a separate building on the property with an elevator that accommodates, and then use that building for something else. So there's a lot there. So the elevator is definitely being thought about, and yeah, in two different ways. Like they have two different kind of drawings for the site. So just something for you to know. Yeah, the kitchen plan is in the works, and what else was in there?
I was gonna say really quick, like the notion that they're gonna serve 3 meals a day there
Yeah,
could in my mind really affect transportation needs for one thing. And like I mentioned at the last meeting, I think if folks are also receiving their mail at this place, that's also big, like a big reason why you need to get down to the Haven. So like a bus stop might be enough if we're like going at the main reasons that folks need to go downtown. But
yep. Just trying to see what else. And one of the things that I heard was that if, we, with our ADA transition plan, if it looks like there needs to be significant work on the sidewalk or anything like that between the bus stop, which is a covered bus stop, which is good, and it serves kind of that little grouping of hotels there, then that could potentially be prioritized on the list. So that might be a thing to note in your recommendations, that if the if the bus is the primary transportation service, just doing a thorough evaluation of accessibility between the bus stop and the shelter before it's put into action. What else was it in the document? There were some other things that I learned. There is some discussion about whether or not there will be a full complement of services on site. I think there's kind of differing views on that right now, in terms of like detox beds or other service provision like that. They are talking about spaces that are private for telehealth appointments also. So just kind of being aware that those things are in there. Another thing that I learned about was, in here we talk about making sure that there's a adequate permanent supportive housing going forward, but and there's another thing to think about, which is that not everybody will qualify for that. And so it may also be good to give some specificity to other types of housing that may be missing, that may serve people that would be otherwise excluded from permanent supportive housing. And this is like housing for people basically from 0 to say 20% AMI. And I don't know, I have some resources too that were shared that of some developments that are kind of modeled in that regard down in Savannah, Georgia. There's a place called Dundee Cottages. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but if you're interested, I can drop those links to you to take a look at. And what else? Yeah, with regard to the benefits cliff stuff, it's not clear whether the economic mobility person, which is still in the process. That's an open position, so it's still in the hiring process. There may be some specific requirements for that position under the Gates Foundation grant, which is paying for it, but it may be still good to advocate that be looked at as to whether or not that's within the scope of that position. And just generally, this idea of what else can be done under the sort of economic mobility umbrella that might serve this population, and how can we tie that back to council's larger economic prosperity goal. So like if we look at council's strategic goals, if you make a reference to what work you might want to see done around economic development, just link it back to the fact that they have that as a strategic pillar in their plan. And what else? I think that's mostly the stuff that I heard when folks were taking a look at this letter in city management. Yeah. I don't think there's much else. The SysRap question is also still a big uncertainty, like advocating for a specific dollar amount to serve a specific number of people, like I put in my notes, is pretty tough right now because you can't really make that calculation per se, but maybe just general advocacy for its continuation would be helpful. Anyway, there's that. Yeah.
I mean, I'm really curious what everyone else thinks. There's a part of me that thinks we should stay really focused on, well, I mean, I would say the SysRap stuff sounds like, it's like, well, of course we should double the amount of money in SysRap. That sounds like a really, that sounds like a no-brainer. But, just figuring out like what to say about the homeless shelters, and something about, I mean, I feel like you guys are so much more on a day-to-day basis, like involved with what is happening, but there's this concern of how long it's going to take to get this place built. And so what is going to happen in the next 2 years? How are we going to get people housed? How are we going to get families housed, more families housed, So I don't know if we want to say something about these other sites that the city owns, or what could happen there. I mean, I think we do need to say something at least general that's like, we want them, we want to make every effort to have housing, very, very soon, or additional housing and shelters very, very soon. But what do you guys think? Elizabeth, what's
Yeah,
your
I agree. I mean, the timeline for this is just obviously, Todd, thank you so much for sharing that information. I think it's really helpful, and it shows that just a lot of things like are on the wish list, but are in flux and will be, because there's all these mitigating factors. For me, I just remember I've now been in my role as an eviction case manager for almost 2 years. And right before I started, the family shelter that Salvation Army had closed. And it closed because they were supposed to be like renovating it to bring a new one online. But it's like, there is no family shelter being built yet. There's nothing happening. So it's like, it's been closed for 2 years, but it's not because an alternative is like coming online. So I wonder if we could just say something about short-term solutions, especially regarding like, maybe ones that like address that, the winter isn't the only time there's weather related need for shelter, like the summer is a time. And then also that just some option for family shelter is just, we've got to have it. It's just so brutal out there. So that's kind of expanding what we're asking for though, but maybe we can have a tight paragraph about the city's plans for the Holiday Inn or the Holiday Drive building, and then kind of say, however, like in the need exists now in the short term, as they well know, and just emphasize possible solutions for that.
think that's a good idea too. It is, I think you're right, it's kind of stating the obvious, but yeah, we have less shelter, not more so far. And yeah.
Heather,
But
another,
a lot of efforts to get us a new shelter, but less shelter so far. And I actually started to put in the notes, but now I don't think I did, but I was like, "Ooh, could we get an update on what's happening with the Salvation Army and like just to know, but it's not like they're really accountable to us in the way that the city is, you know?
Heather, one thing I do know is that they had family units before. And now the new major is talking about reopening some of the existing ones. I don't know how many, or how soon. And then when the new Center of Hope opens, there's supposed to be additional family units, but they're traditionally been for women and children and maybe not fathers and children, which may be a thing to think about. And they're not low barrier. So that's just like another thing. It's uncertain, like, you know, the Cherry Avenue site may still be one option to advocate for, but it, you know, again, that has to be built out too. So, those are the things I know about kind of where the Salvation Army is at right now. So.
Can we ask that someone from the Salvation Army though come to a meeting and just kind of give us an update of some sort?
Yeah, it certainly can. There's no harm in asking, and we've done that before. We've had them, the previous major come and speak. So and that was back when they were soliciting council for funding. So yeah, if you want to arrange something like that, that's we can help with that.
I think it's a great idea too. Um, I don't know if we can do it before our recommendations, but I think it's like, it's a huge question to just find out, okay, what's going on with a renovation and how soon are they going to have some family housing and also what, if it's not low barrier, what are the barriers, like what are do they have to like worship? Do they have to do chores? Is it, breathalyzer tests? Like I don't know enough about what
The big one is the substance abuse testing.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can't be like Pacham, you can be using or under the influence of substances or alcohol, but you can't use at Pacham, right? So you can show up to Pacham like intoxicated, and they'll let you in. But Salvation Army, I think they do like breathalyze you. They may even do, I don't know if they do a drug screen. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I do want to flag like for a children's shelter that has children in it. I think that a higher barrier to entry is probably just going to be kind of par for the course, and they're going to have to walk a line between making sure the children are safe, along with all the residents. So it's a difficult thing.
That's the other thing is Pacham takes sex offenders. So I also think that Salvation Army, I'm throwing this out there. I believe I'm correct that they're a smoke-free campus. Does that sound, has anybody else heard that?
I think that you can smoke outside because I've had a client that wasn't able to go there because of smoke outside, but that's my only point of reference. So I can't speak to that with like from a point of knowledge, just a point of like hearsay.
Okay.
Just a thought, you mentioned not being able to get the major or a representative from the Salvation Army to come to a commission meeting in time for your recommendations, but you could always reach out via email or a letter and ask, explain kind of what you're trying to do, and maybe get your responses that way, or arrange like a one-on-one if you wanted to. So maybe we can talk after about that if you'd like to figure out a way to expedite it to get the information you're looking for.
I think, I mean, I'm up for that if other people are up for it, just to see what we can learn. I think it's a great idea because it's easy to like, there are all of these different sites and all of these different possibilities. And now we're sort of focusing on this idea of the Holiday Drive site, which, would be great to have another site, but it's like, well, what is happening with these places that are already like that we have already had kind of this understanding that there will be a shelter there, or a shelter reopened. Could I just ask, like, with the Cherry Avenue site, is like what is happening? Is there, kind of just portrays me as being like so completely out of the loop. Like, is there any possibility?
So it's still a possibility. I think the focus has just become Holiday Drive now because it's so much of a bigger project, I think. I don't know that there's been any talk of doing anything simultaneously, but I mean, that's another question that could be raised to management. I don't know that they have an answer yet. That seems like something that that's maybe further down the road, because I think they're just pretty wrapped up in figuring out what to do with the new purchase. So, but I know it's not off the table. I guess I know that much.
Okay. Well, Elizabeth and Jason, what do you guys think? Like, how do you think we should tackle this? And I guess, okay, here's a question. Here's another informational question. Like, say that we were going to provide a shelter, like, it's like we've got all these people, they've got to go somewhere. We've got to get a place for them. It needs to be done 6 weeks from now. What would that be? Like, is there any, like, say you're just going to try to house 40 people somewhere, what would it be? Like, is there any site, where like that Zero East High site, like there, could there be something there? Could there be tiny homes or pallets, houses like on the Holiday Drive site before construction even begins? Like, could there be something that is a stopgap effort that gets people, access to services and a place to check their mail and all this stuff? Because, like, even if, say, we're going to do this Holiday Drive site, there's a long period of, engineering studies and, architectural drawings, and like all of the, the community's got to give feedback on what kind of services are going to be offered. There's just so much stuff that will, like, probably make it take even longer. So is there something that can be done in the meantime?
I mean,
Prefab homeless shelter.
I mean, the one thing that like we're not thinking of either just on that side of it is like who would staff it, even if there was the space. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I'm also interested in what happened to the Cherry Avenue. I understand the neighborhood's reservations about it, but in terms of it, yeah, there's a lot of things that are really, borderline ideal about it in terms of location and even layout and yeah, accessibility. But
My understanding is they're still looking at the Cherry Avenue site for a family shelter. So that it's not in any way off the table. And they think that the neighborhood would be most amenable to that site having like families. So it's just though that, right, like, Shayla Washington said, "Oh, we think the holiday drive will be 2 years. It's probably going to be 3." It's like all of this is like 2030. So yeah, so I think like what I would recommend is if we like sort of really, succinctly put our recommendations about the holiday drive building and the factors that we've, outlined that we want them to consider. Then, I really like that pair or that part that we have about looking into these other options in the other locations, including the pallet homes at Zero East High. And then I think maybe we add something in that just talks about a stopgap and short-term planning for the needs of the homeless population now.
And what do you think we could say about the short-term planning and like the attending? Hi, Dawn, by the way. Hi, it's good to have you here.
Hey, Don.
Like what kinds of things do you think we could put in about, short-term planning, like for the population now?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I don't think it's necessarily our role to like envision the solution. And I think because especially that solution involves like so much money. But just emphasizing that while we appreciate these efforts, the need and that they know this, but that the need is ongoing and probably getting worse. And so we need also, while we're bringing these longer term options online, we do need to continue to explore shorter term solutions.
And I guess I would ask, when we're talking about this, are we talking about homeless individuals, or are we getting back to just having like no options for families at all? Like what?
Yeah, I think we should say one for, low barrier and families experiencing homelessness. Because, now, the Pacham season kicked off, I think a couple days ago. So now Pacham is a place, a low barrier place for folks who may typically sleep unsheltered in the warmer months. But as the weather gets worse, it just becomes a total crunch with all the beds at Salvation Army full. They have something called a warm room, which I think are just chairs that people can be in for the night so that they're not out on the street in the freezing cold. But there just remains no option for families. So, finding a short-term solution for families, whether that's just, a space with some partitions that people can literally just have somewhere to go. I think we can keep pressuring the city, and I think they've probably thought of it.
Do we know, or do we have any sort of approximate number of how many families we think are unhoused in Charlottesville and Albemarle?
Todd or Lily, I don't know if you have it, or Dawn. I think it's somewhere around 300 or 400 families.
And it's also whatever's reported is assumed to be a lot lower because a lot of families are like doubling and tripling up together in houses and wherever they're living.
And there's a huge fear that if you let like social services know, and just to say that's in Charlottesville and Albemarle. I think it's 150 to 200 in each locality. But there's just a huge stigma, and people are afraid if social services finds out that they're unhoused, that they'll take the children away. So they try to fly under the radar however possible.
I would say too, like hearing the vastness of those numbers, like there's no way you're ever going
So
to be
especially with the
like there's no way you're ever going to be able to provide enough, but even something like there's one in Roanoke that serves like 2 to 4 families at a time that's similar to Pacham. But like even serving in my mind, like having a space for 4, 5, 6 families is a lot better than nothing. But I don't know.
It is better than nothing. I mean, I just am like, oh my God, I cannot believe it's that many. That is just absolutely just gut wrenching. Um,
I have a question. Like, what
Yeah.
about like some of the emergency funds that sometimes they use for like hotel voucher or like to get hotel, especially for the families that are out? Could anything be used for that, especially for the families that's out on the street?
Yeah, my understanding is that the city's hotel stay program is for a maximum of 2 weeks, period. So if you
Right.
have a family that's experiencing homelessness, they can get in, but it's not it's such a short-term solution.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
right.
but I do think expanding that I mean,
That's
it's
what
an
I was thinking.
expensive option.
Right. That's what I was wanting to know, like if that's something, because I know there's a time limit, but is it possible to expand that to give them enough time to maybe look for, some other options while, um,
I don't know. Is
and I
that
know
is
there's
that
some
something
talks
that's
about.
possible?
I mean, I think it's definitely
Oh,
possible. It just costs money.
right.
And it's less cost effective, like building something is more cost effective, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Right.
It's very tough. So those hotel stays are for people experiencing homelessness. They're for people that have like a thing, like it used to be a little more flexible in my experience, but now it's like you literally have to be like, this person will die if they go into a congregate setting. But then you can't be so sick that you can't care for yourself either. It's just like, I don't know. It's for me and Don, I don't know if you've experienced this, but it's just gotten harder and harder to get people into those hotel stays. But then even once they're in,
Right.
it's so short term, and especially for families experiencing homelessness, they really need like long-term counseling and case management to get back into housing.
Mhm.
Because it's usually because of a huge eviction and there's a huge judgment. So if you owe $8,000, no one's going to rent to you.
Has anybody, I'm just trying to think of like how to do these things. Like, has anyone asked for a timeline? Like, I know that Sam Sanders submitted a timeline of everything he has done, and it's, obviously immense, everything he's done to try and, find spaces and, obviously there's a lot of working with different communities to get their buy-in, but like, is there okay, could there be a timeline of like 6 months from now, somehow we will have added 100 beds. Okay. A year from now, we will have added 100 more somehow. Like, I don't know where, but like, let's make a goal that we're expanding by, in whatever 6 or yearly increments. Just something to underscore the short-term goals. I mean, I guess we're already saying it in the recommendations probably that we need to fill this short-term gap. It's just there's a part of me that wants to say, hey, could you do it this way? Could you like actually make a timeline that makes some commitments? And then if you haven't done it, then you didn't like I don't want to say failed, but like then you didn't do the thing you were supposed to do. Like instead of us keeping going and not actually getting more places for people to stay.
Yeah, I mean, I think for these recommendations,
Sorry, I'm getting all worked up. I'm just like
I know.
thinking about,
Oh, I
these
listen,
families. But
listen, I feel you. But what I would say is like, let's get these recommendations with, I mean, funding more hotel stays for families or finding other kinds of stays, for families. I mean, another solution, I mean, I think I added it somewhere in there, but creating a program to incentivize landlords to rent to families who are experiencing homelessness, who have dodgy credit, would go a huge, because most families are like, something happened that caused them to get behind, like job loss or illness. But many of those families are working now, or you know what I mean? Like, so I think we could wipe out like a third, a large percentage of people if we just could have like a block of homes that the city is like, we have these homes, you can rent there. So that rental protection for landlords. But the other thing I was going to say is maybe it's interesting because other boards and commissions like have a sitting counselor who's always just there and in conversation. We don't have that, but maybe we should invite, Sam Sanders, the person from Salvation Army, maybe, someone from Pacham to just come talk to us and have kind of a roundtable about homelessness and what we can do in the very short term. I know those are all really busy people right now. So it's just something to think about.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's great. And having council members, one or two is a good idea. Just so we can get an idea of like, there could be some piece of information we don't possess. But okay, could I ask you a question about this thing that you just said right before that? This idea of wiping out a large percentage of people if we have a block of homes that the city has said people can rent because they're doing something to incentivize the landlords. What could that be that would incentivize the
Yeah.
landlords?
So there can be things like they're called like, I don't know, Todd and Lily, let me know if you remember exactly the terminology for this. Um, but it's like they're like funds that incentivize landlords. So you say like, okay, we'll like backstop this like questionable tenant. Like if this tenant damages your property, if they go over their security deposit, if they get evicted again, like we'll pay. We have this pot of money set aside to like reimburse you and make you whole for taking the like chance on this tenant. And those are things that exist. So I have it like, sorry, under help in accessing housing. I left a comment with some like proposed language that says kind of like what that could look like. And it's something that's been explored. I think the county maybe even went as far to have a program like this that they like pass legislation over, but it's never happened. But it's something that could happen, and it's a it's like a bureaucratic solution. I mean, yes, it would take money, but my understanding is when these funds exist, like they're not used nearly as much as you think they are. So it just creates that cushion. It's like insurance, it's an insurance policy.
And it could be a pilot program. Like if we want to use the surplus, we can, it can be like, okay, we want a year-long, pilot program where we're just testing to see. I mean, I hate to think about like testing to see how people do, but like, okay, we want to see if we can get people into stable housing and if, uh, you know, yeah, incentivize the landlords and maybe there's some way of like, I don't know, extending help in some other way to these people who are like, we're trying to get transitioned into permanent housing or stable housing. And then, see if that can be a solution that isn't a shelter. because if somebody has just experienced like, their car broke down or like their, just some horrible thing, someone had a, catastrophic medical bill, but it's not like that doesn't, so I realize that's a lot of people. That's like, many, many people. That's their situation. But I don't know, maybe there's some way to have a pilot program like that. Mm.
Yeah,
Th-
I mean, I think, I think that would be great. And also it's a housing first solution, right? Like people need housing. Oh, what if the solution was getting them housing, actually, and not
Right. That we don't have to build it right now or like talk about building it. We can actually like, let's take this pot of money and put it into trying to like make them
But
not be.
don't the city, I'm sorry, anyway,
No,
I'm
go ahead,
delayed.
please. Talk to
Oh, and this might be a crazy idea, I don't know, but the city owns some certain houses, right? In the city, in the town. So couldn't that be like some like houses that they could don't, or open up to like homelessness until they're able to transition if possible? I don't know. Does
Yeah,
that make
I
sense?
think
You get
there's
what I'm
lots
saying?
of vacancies at CRHA
Right.
houses, but they won't like they won't rent to you if you have a big eviction judgment. I think if you have like a felony or an eviction judgment, a felony in the last 10 years and an eviction judgment.
Well, I'm just talking about making some of these houses homes, or like even in the city, like something like Maca, where home to like, where they're coming in, they're homeless. They have these families, they go in there, they help them transition. But they're using these homes that the city owns, but using them for that purpose so they can help these families get off the street and then maybe transit, to something else after they, the parents work on goals, whatever that might be, or get a little financially stable and then, be able to transition into, something else. Does that make sense? These are these home, that they're out there, they're vacant. So yeah.
Do we have any idea how many CRHA or MACA homes are vacant? And are there like 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms? Do those exist?
The Maca Hope House homes are usually full when I've heard. Is it Nancy Kidd that usually reports on
Yeah.
that? Those are
So,
generally full. They're not owned. I don't believe they're owned by the city. I think they're owned by Maca. Um, any homes that the housing authority owns, that's not city-owned property, that would be owned by the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority, which
right,
gets confused a lot as being a city department, but it's not. It's its
right.
own thing. But I don't know. I don't know what the vacancy rate of the single family homes are. They do own some. I think generally they use those for people to rent with vouchers, as I understand it. I think they own. There is another place called the Dogwood Properties that I know has been talked about as another option. I'm not sure what the current status of that property is, but that's an apartment complex that CRHA bought, and I don't know how they're administering that. So that could be something to inquire about. I think the other thing that I wanted to mention too is that the old Housing Advisory Committee kicked around that landlord incentive program a number of times. They brought it to council a number of times, but it never got off the ground because I believe there was some disagreement between what the Housing Advisory Committee was proposing and staff felt was reasonable. And so it really never made it into an actionable policy, but it would be interesting to find out where that got left. And I honestly don't even know if the Housing Advisory Committee is currently meeting. I don't know who's on it or any of that. I haven't checked that out in a while, but it might be good to figure that out. We could look that up and see who's current chair and if there's any draft in the works for that, because it might be good to know just what is the status of that and is it still being considered? So
I did not realize the Housing Advisory Committee was, okay.
I believe they do still meet.
Yeah, it looks like a meeting. Yeah, they're having a meeting in December. But I do think it's
I
something.
used to go to their meetings, but they're always in some weird space, and it's always during the workday. And like every time I try to go via Zoom, like something catastrophic happens where you can see them but not hear them, or there's just no feed, or so I kind of gave up. But they are a really powerful committee. that would be good to like kind of coordinate with and talk to too.
I feel like I feel like CETA just had some sort of joint meeting with another commission. I can't remember. Maybe I'm misremembering that. That might be an impossible thing to pull off, but if it weren't, it would be really interesting if a couple of different commissions could meet. Like, yeah, actually, if we could meet with CETA, the Charlottesville Economic Development Authority, or with Housing Advisory Committee. Um, uh, yeah. So I guess, yeah, we should try to find out about that landlord incentive program and just see like just how much could we do and how much would make a difference. It sounds like it could make a really big difference if we could get something off the ground, and it doesn't have to be forever. I mean, it sounds like with the surplus, it shouldn't be something that is forever. It's a one-time expense, so it needs to be some kind of like 6-month program or something like that. Or actually, how long could it be? Could it be could it be a 2-year pilot program while they're sorting out all of these facilities that are building?
So maybe if we add something that's like, use the surplus, and, use funding from the surplus to explore short-term solutions for folks experiencing homelessness, and especially families and those in need of low barrier shelter, including an expansion of city-funded hotel stays, an exploration of like partnering with CRHA to expand, supportive programming in CRHA housing, and a landlord incentive program to incentivize people to rent to like credit people with poor credit.
Sorry, I muted myself so you wouldn't have to hear me typing, but I think that sounds very good. Um, do you guys think we're missing anything, or does anybody think like, oh no, we can't do this yet? I mean, because we're not, yeah. So it's just, what do you guys? Uh, should I call on people and be like, okay, Jason, what do you think? Does that sound, do you think that those are good things to add in terms of like a short-term solution? I mean, we would also add in, like, make sure that, stay on this Cherry Avenue site and, um,
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of us wading into this and pushing the city, to at least be thinking about this. I've just kind of been thinking about like, are there any tangible ways for it to happen sooner than later? And I was even thinking that parcel on Avon is perhaps more palatable to folks if it's based around families rather than just individuals, because I know the NIMBY thing was huge there, but no, I like putting that in.
yeah, we didn't say
Yeah, I
anything
would just
about,
piggyback. Yeah, I agree.
we didn't say anything about, Avon,
Yeah. And
but,
maybe that's I mean that's not going to be a short-term thing anyway, but
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm eating. I think Levy Avenue is the Avon property.
Okay. Oh, and that is in there. Okay. Let's see. And, okay. I think, so we still have this document and we can all like look at it and refine it. what do you guys think? Like, should we, I mean, I realize maybe this seems really premature. How to do this? Because I'm not in the SharePoint. I guess actually if I get in the SharePoint document, it'll update where Todd is instead of me just like looking at it online. But like, I don't know actually if Elizabeth already wrote in her language. But it seems like the first thing is it's like we've got our statement on the holiday drive site. Um, and then we have, the urgent need for short-term solutions. I mean, we don't have to use this language. This is just like what I'm putting here. Um, and then the language that Elizabeth just like spouted off the top of her head that I actually wrote down that I can put in here. And to actually reference the specific places as well. Like, do you? Um, um, and then we would have, we'd want to refer to like the specific sites, I would think. I'm just looking through here. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm like talking as I'm looking through the document, which is maybe a little bit annoying. If anybody else wants to say something, that's good. But what I was gonna do is like try to consolidate what we kind of have been talking about.
Yeah, and we do list the sites. We say we recommend further that the city move forward to develop housing and shelter options at additional sites such as Cherry Avenue,
Yeah.
Levy, and Zero East High.
Yes, so I put those there, like, is there anything additional we want to say about those sites? Or do we just say like, we sort of trust that they know what could be done at those sites? I mean, we already say that we want to prioritize people, a low barrier shelter and a shelter for families in the short term. And then, yeah, do you think that's enough? Okay,
I
providing.
mean, I think it covers, yeah.
Okay, then I have things like I think the benefits cliff issue is really important, but I almost think we could wait on that. We also had providing post eviction resources, realizing the right to counsel in eviction proceedings. We could save those for for a separate letter and just like keep it really focused on the need for shelter and also emphasizing housing for solutions, as Elizabeth was saying. What do you guys think?
I think it's a start. I mean, I feel like you gotta start somewhere. So, I mean, homelessness is definitely an issue. So, yeah, I mean, I agree.
Okay, I've got some comments here too.
I added some suggestions for language on both those. I think we should flesh those out. I think they're
Okay.
an essential part of preventing homelessness from starting
Okay.
in the first place.
Okay.
So I have some sample language for those sections.
I see that. Okay. Oh, perfect. All right. Sorry, I didn't see that before here.
But I have a question for the
Providing universal.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry,
Sorry. Go ahead, Dawn.
No, so for the post eviction resources, like, we're gonna write the letter for that. Like, when would that take place? Is that gonna be soon, or would that be before January, or when? Did you hear me? I don't know.
I'm sorry. It's just like a regular meeting, except I had to buy this food.
Yeah. Well, I ate mine. I turned off my camera and I ate a huge amount of cereal. That was what I was doing at the beginning.
So I think these would be things that the city would consider as it's creating its budget and going through the budget cycle process, which would be enacted on July 1st. So the timeline for these recommendations is pretty long, but the idea I think is to get it in so that they can think of these things as they're crafting their priorities for budget season, which somehow stretches from November to like March or April.
Yeah, just to give you context, departments right now are presenting their budgets to management like on a weekly basis. Like I go next week. And I think they're going to finish those departmental hearings in November, and then they start doing public hearings on all the different aspects of the budget, and then they generally pass it in April. And then it doesn't go into effect until July 1st. But yeah, this is the moment. This is the moment if you have a financial ask.
Because I feel like the post eviction stuff is equally important also. Is that?
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's just gonna be like a full circle. People will be back, it's just.
Let me see, all right, I hope it's okay if I'm like putting in a lot of Elizabeth's language, and then is it okay if I just delete these comments? Just to keep track
Yes.
of it? Okay. And that way I know that I've like gotten everything. Okay, the stuff about what about SysRap? Sorry, I'm just going through this to like try and consolidate everything. Should we just leave that aside from now, or that's the Charlottesville Supplemental Housing Rental Assistance Program, which, yeah.
Wait, when you say,
We,
what were you recommending? Sorry.
well, this just came up in the meeting and now I don't even remember who said it. So, but it was just this idea of increasing the funding of the Charlottesville Supplemental Housing Rental Assistance Program that is currently thought to be something like 900,000 per year. And it was said in the meeting that this has allowed it to maintain a steady number of people with new vouchers, but we don't know, like, it doesn't sound like it's able to add new people. And so I don't have, like, I can't verify these numbers right now. It's like, these are the numbers that kind of came out of, like people's mouths in the meeting. And so we need to verify all of it. And like, I don't think we could necessarily say, like, Todd has some comments here that it's like, we can't say 1.5 million is going to get us this many more people with vouchers because we don't know what the dollar amount would be. But I don't know, like, is this a good thing to recommend still, that it go from 900,000 to 1.5 or something like that?
I think we can just generally recommend that they increase funding to CSRAP.
Okay.
Whatever level it's at and however many people have it, it's not enough. And we easily need more. So I just think we can keep it pretty big. That's my feeling.
So we could just say increase the funding of CSRAP.
Yes.
And we don't have to tell them what it is because they know
Increase the
it.
funding, yeah, and the number of voucher recipients through the CSRAP program.
Mhm. To provide. Okay. Oh, obviously we'll make this language better, but okay. Now the stuff I had said something about how, okay, we had this issue of the benefits cliff, which is something that Dawn has brought up. It's like when people like are able to come up a bit in income, they could lose their benefits. And Todd had said the city is hiring somebody to look at issues like that. And so we could suggest that person look at this issue to understand it better, but that they have not hired that person yet. So there is a part of me that wonders if we should, just like keep it totally on housing, since that's our area of focus. And then we'll learn more about,
Mhm.
the benefits slip, but I'm sort of curious. Does anybody have thoughts on this?
I know that like whatever that role is called, is also supposed to look at that acronym ALICE, which I don't know what it stands for, but it's like people who are working but still like can't afford really their housing. They're like somehow income burdened. Um, so I think that I think we could just again have like a bullet point that has that's like sorry, let me make it bigger so I can read it. Like mine like as the council refines the role of the economic mobility officer, consider, pay special attention to or I don't know, something about like including that in the role of the economic mobility officer to address issues such as like Alice, I'll have to look up what that acronym is, and then people who may experience a benefits cliff, like by like raising their income, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that sounds good. I guess we need to find out what the, well, okay. Do we want to put it in the recommendations, even if we do not yet have this economic mobility officer? Do we just, and we can still put it in there and say, we
Mhm.
understand that we will have this kind of position.
Yeah. So
Or,
it's asset limited, income constrained, employed. So it's just a way of kind of, what many of us already know is that many folks don't make enough money. They have a job, but it's not a living wage. And so they're unable to survive, even though they have a full-time job.
Mhm.
So, I think exploring those, I think it does correlate really closely to housing accessibility.
Okay. And we want, okay, give me the language again, if you can, like what you think
Yeah,
it should, what it should
like
say.
maybe we could say the commission understands that the city recently hired an economic mobility officer. We recommend that that officer particularly explore the way that residents experience benefits cliffs when increasing income and struggling to survive as I don't know what like how to kind of say like Alice households and the constraints Alice households experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if this could be like how would this would fall under it, if this makes sense, but like even for the vouchers, I think when Todd was saying last time about the city voucher, like for instance, and I think I mentioned it, it doesn't always work for everyone. Because even for instance, I have somebody on my caseload who the the housing, sorry, the barking dog, um, they don't make enough. I mean, they make pretty much it's not going to help them regardless if they get the housing voucher or not, but they still can't make ends meet. Like they're still struggling just because of the cost of living. So I don't know if there any way like the housing voucher or certain like even the city voucher, if could they bend a little bit or could they explore like just at the cost of living with the income? Like because even if somebody makes like let's say, I don't know, someone makes like 30 or 40,000, it's still gonna be so harder for them living in Charlotte with the cost of living, with children. And they most like even if they get that city voucher, whatever, it's still not going to like change the rent or anything. Does that make sense? Or
Well, the
yes,
city vouchers, I mean, if they have a house, any kind of voucher, either through C-STRAP or other means, I think that their rent should always be 30% of their income.
right, it is. But I'm saying like some of them, it's not going to like that's the case. It's still not going to make a dent anything. Does that make sense? Like they're still
Yeah.
they don't. There's no other options for them. That voucher is not even going to do anything for them, but they're still struggling. You know what I mean? They got a
Yeah,
job, so it's
yeah.
either do
It's
they,
like there's just a certain income below which it doesn't matter.
right,
If your
right,
income is 1,500 and you're paying $500 a month for rent, that's great, except you can't live on $1,000 a
right,
month. Yeah.
right, right. So that's what I'm saying, like, it's like a no-win situation kind of thing, so,
Yeah. I hear you. And especially if you have like, God forbid if you have
children
to
and
own
other
a
needs, yeah,
car, that's like a
right,
$600 or $700 undertaking every month.
right.
So maybe
Because
we
I know
just
this set,
also,
I'm sorry,
oh, go ahead. You
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Dawn.
No, go ahead, no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and maybe we could just have a sentence that's like something about, and consider, uh, experienced by asset, benefits cliffs and the constraints experienced by asset limited income households. Um, and then just say something like affordability remains, like something about like just affordability, like, because that's I think what you're speaking to, and
Right,
that's what we're seeing is just
right,
like
right,
their affordability, or that's my issue with like that I brought up about the crossings, right? Like, yeah, they're at this supportive housing, but it's not, no one can afford that rent based on like, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, that doesn't, maybe, yeah, for those seeking housing, even voucher holders, maybe saying like even voucher holders or something.
Is that including
Yeah.
including housing voucher? Okay. And to be clear, I think we'll work on the language for all of these things, like I for sure, but if we can just have the list then and
Yeah.
have it in here, then and I'll put that as a separate line, then we can know like, okay, if we pass these recommendations tonight, like what is it that we're passing, you know?
Yeah. And I'm happy to help with the language. I didn't want to go in with all the open comments. It was like, I was like, that's why I was like, I'll just suggest that we say this here.
And it's so helpful. It's so helpful to like have the actual language suggestion because in so many, it was just a crazy like month, and just to get like the thoughts like spilled out onto the page
Mhm.
was an effort. I was like, oh my God, hopefully someone has the brain to do real language here. Okay, I think these are all really, really helpful. Okay, oh, do we want to have something in there about, there is something in there right now about helping people who remain unhoused, like that,
Oh, people that are kind of like that don't care to seek shelter. Is that
right.
what you're talking about?
Yeah. And I mean, and people who will remain unhoused because there just isn't the shelter anyway, but like,
Mhm.
just what can we do for people in the interim? I mean, obviously we've talked about all of these different sites, but like, could there be more warming centers? I'm just like spitting out ideas. Is there anything else we want to say? Just because it was on the list of,
Yeah.
I mean, we could stop. We don't have to do that.
I mean, the sense that you have, I think is okay to me.
Mhm.
Like, um, I mean, I will say that the Haven provides showers, food, laundry services, and social support to that
Mhm.
population. Um, and a lot of those folks do access Haven services.
But I think with the laundry part with the Haven, I think it's kind of like first come, first serve. So sometimes I feel like, even talk to people, it can be very hard to even get some time the laundry like clothes washed. Is that?
Okay.
Can I ask a process question? And since I'm fairly new to this, do we use like a kitchen sink approach? when we're building this? Do you know what I mean? Like, is the goal to provide as many suggestions as possible? Or by like narrowing it, does it give more power to fewer recommendations? Do you know what I mean?
I think maybe narrowing it is not a bad idea. Not having everything on there is a good, I think everything we've talked about having and said, yes, we should have it is a good thing to have. But I do think like, having 20 different things could be a lot. And we can always write separate letters too, make different, resolve something or that and do that too.
With the legislative recommendations, they did, there were a lot more there because they were receiving them from 3 different departments, but it was helpful for them. They said, what are your top 5, right? We went through that exercise of rating them. So I think that if that's an example of how council's thinking about these kinds of things, I think being targeted in your approach is useful, and being specific if you know details that you really want them to consider, making sure that those are there, so they know what you're really asking for. But no, sometimes that's very difficult. So, but narrowing it down might be helpful.
So maybe with the folks that are like not interested in shelter options, maybe we could, I mean, I understand what Don is saying. Maybe though we could just tack on a sentence. Hold on. I'm just looking at the main doc to see where we said that. You know, where we talk about short-term solutions, like, I mean, we say that we want like, hold on, sorry. Yeah, maybe we just say something for the population who may prefer not to reside in a shelter. Because I actually think like I know that that what is provided right now isn't super adequate, but I actually think like kind of what those folks might need more than that is like bathrooms, and you know what I mean? Like they kind of need services where they are. And I don't know. Sorry, I'm starting to get tired.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, it's a whole, well, it's a very related topic, but I know we've already got a lot of talking points, but still the lack of a place to use the restroom
Mhm.
on the downtown mall is a huge one, and that would definitely be something to tackle at some point, particularly at the city hall end of the downtown mall.
Okay.
But anyway,
Oh, we can put it down there. I don't think that that's like a good thing to ask for. I don't know if other people feel that way, but we can also, how could we do this? I mean, I feel like we could say we are going to pass these recommendations. We are going to continue to work on them. I mean, I'm happy to, I mean, one, we could have a meeting on November 20th if we want to, but we could also just follow up separately and go through them and be like, okay, so this is the status now. What do you think? Like, I know, Elizabeth is committed to like working on these, and I'm definitely committed to working on them too. I'm sure that between the two of us, like we can get a lot of strong language hammered out and, pass it to you guys. I don't know if we can just email them to everyone and say, what do you think? Just that way we can not have to stay on the meeting past 8.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Dawn.
No, I was saying, no, I'm just telling, that sounds good, what she was saying. I was agreeing, never mind.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing is just kind of deciding what we want to say about how, you know, and I know Sam Sanders has talked about like having designated campsites with like kind of services there, you know. Um, but I think that issue is multi-pronged because there's different populations. Like there's the folks that are kind of sleeping on the downtown mall without any kind of real like formal shelter. And then there's the folks that are camping along the Ravenna Trail at Zero East High. And those are two really different populations, actually. Um, so just I think whatever you're writing, Heather, about this, I think is going to be perfect. And just, you know, like continuing to invest in supportive services like those offered through the Haven, and
Mhm.
also looking at, like site specific solutions for these community members or something.
Yeah. And I think the term multi-pronged effort is really important too, because that's kind of what I was trying to say, but I wasn't saying it very well, is like there are so many different populations. We're not going to smush them all into one place. Like they don't
Yeah.
all need the same thing. And I think everybody knows that. And so, but multi-pronged effort is a very good way to put that. So,
Yeah.
um, do you guys think that like if I send an email, I usually just send to like the Human Rights Commission list. Do people get those emails? And then like I don't want to say, okay, we're gonna pass these and then you never see them again, you know? I think people weighing in is really, really, really helpful. Um,
Todd and Lily, do you all have the kind of power to email people at their other email addresses, or should we set a date by which like everyone is gonna like commit to logging in and looking at the final draft or something like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we could reach out to folks and see, for those we haven't seen in a bit, to let them know like, hey, check your city email, so that you can look at this draft before a certain date. Yeah, if you have a date in mind.
Okay.
I don't know. I honestly don't. I can't see what people are doing with their city emails, if they are logging in or not. Or yeah. So but we can try reaching out to specific people individually at their personal addresses and then copying their city email.
okay. That sounds good. Um, and sometimes people just can't, like, not everybody can participate all the time. We just I wouldn't want to pass these without having, like, let's say we've got 4 people here, like, let's make sure that these 4 people get followed up with, you know? Um, and I would love to obviously get all of the commissioners to get their eyes on it too. So yeah, but we want to get them passed by the end of the month. So, what do you guys think? Do you think we can, like, should we pass them tonight, or should we have a meeting on the 20th to pass them? Like, do more, in the interim and then have like a fast meeting on the 20th, or what do you think?
I think that's a good idea to see if we can get them passed by the 20th. That way, hopefully other people be there. I think that's,
Yeah, I was gonna say some of them still feel in rough draft form, to be honest.
Yeah, they definitely are. Okay. Okay. I think we can do that. I mean, there's the risk that we wouldn't have quorum on the 20th, but I mean, I will be there on the 20th for sure. If you guys, even if it could be like just a half an hour, we could get it done.
okay.
Good.
So, yeah,
It would have to be, I would have to be online. I don't know about any other constraints. Would online be preferable for other people, or would it be preferable? Okay. What about you, Elizabeth? Is
That'd
that,
be good, yeah.
and that's good for you, Dawn? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
online is preferable.
Okay. And Todd, we're fine to do that, right? We haven't
I
exceeded
believe
our
so,
allotment.
because it's
Yeah.
like, it's 25%, it's 2 or 25%, whichever is less, I
Okay.
think is the
Okay.
of your total meetings, but or something like that. I have to look at the exact policy, but I think you're in the clear if you do one more virtually. And I'll see how we can orchestrate that maybe similarly to how we've done it this
Okay.
evening. I may have to, I'm going to be at a training, but I may be able to escape and come back to the office to run it a little bit easier. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think that's great. If people could do that, then I'm very comfortable, like, giving this another couple weeks to cook, keeping it in the SharePoint doc. Like we could send some emails that are like, hey, the doc is in more cleaned up fashion. Have a look, and then we could have a meeting.
Can I ask a question though? Just about the options. So like before it sounded like you were talking about that we could say like these are the tenants we are committing to recommending, but that we want to like change, we want to refine the specific language and take that vote. Like, is there some way to take like a preliminary vote that we commit to these tenants? I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to see if there's a way we don't have to have another meeting. 'cause
Yeah,
we
no,
already-
that was what I was suggesting, is that I would never, ever, ever in a million years suggest that we send this document to city council, but that we basically say, okay, this is what, like, these are the things that we're going to put in, but we can continue to work on these. We can continue to refine them, but I don't know, you don't say pass them in spirit. Maybe that is what you say.
In the past, I believe you all have voted to authorize this. I was going to say city manager, but you're not the city manager. You are the chair of the Human Rights
Right.
Commission. To authorize the chair of the Human Rights Commission to finalize a draft based on the discussion that you had during this meeting. I mean, if you have, you as chair have the authority to speak on behalf of the commission and submit recommendations on behalf of the commission. But if you want the blessing of a quorum of the commission, you could do it that way to say, per the discussion we've had this evening, the chair will draft a final set of recommendations and send it to council. If it depends. If you're trying to not have to meet on the 20th, that might be one way to do it. If you'd like to have that vote on record.
Well, what happened the last time is we passed it. That's basically how we passed it the last time. And then Lily and I worked, for a day, just like we went back to like all of the different service providers and talked to them about what their recommendations had been. And so that is how we did it. We don't have to do it that way. Like, I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable that, we would end up with something in the recommendations that you wouldn't want. But
Well, just speaking for me, I'm comfortable signing off on this and refining the language and just kind of saying these are the concepts that we've talked about, because this will now be the second meeting we've dedicated to this. So I'm comfortable, but I don't want to push other folks if other folks aren't.
I'm comfortable with it as well.
Yeah. I am.
okay. I'm comfortable with it too. And I can commit, like, I'm sitting here working on this document right now, and I can commit to like making it clearer, making it more concise. Like, it won't be 3 pages, it'll be, 1 page, and it won't look like my meeting notes. And then we can like absolutely, I know there's the language about like the authority of the chair, but in reality, I'm gonna circle back to everyone and be like, so what do you think now? What do you think now? So I think it's not a bad idea. Just honestly, just in case something happened to our meeting on the 20th and we weren't able to like get quorum to vote then, um, that would be bad if we couldn't do it. Um, yeah, so I'm comfortable with it too. Okay, well, do we need to like vote on that? I mean, I guess we do. We need to vote to do it. I can't remember. If I need to
Nope.
like somebody, am I allowed to make a motion that we vote to pass
Yeah.
them provisionally or with the understanding that we'll continue to refine them?
That is basically what you did
Okay.
in August in your meeting on the 21st for the legislative recommendations. Yep.
Okay. Well, I can't, I think that as a chair, I still can make that motion. Sometimes like the chair
Oh.
can't make that motion. I can never remember, but if I can, I'll make that motion to do that.
We don't
Alright.
have to second it here. And
We don't do it. Okay.
You
if
can follow
not,
Martha's
Let's just
rules.
vote. Let's just vote.
regardless, I second it.
Okay.
Me too.
I feel like I've heard us second things on the commission, but I'm sure we just like change the rules all the time. Anyway,
I think as long as it's clear that you're making a decision,
Yeah.
and that decision-making process is obvious, then I don't, if you stray from your rules, you're probably okay. Would you like me to do a roll call vote?
yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, Heather?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
And Jason?
Yes.
Okay. Your motion passes.
Okay. So let's see. Okay, so I will follow up with you guys, and I'll email and we'll hammer all this out. We've got work plan check-in. I don't feel like there's much we have to do there. I mean, this is like our big task right now. New business, nothing that I've got. Matters by the public, any public comment. If you would like to make a comment, just use the raised hand function if we have these. Okay, we've got a couple attendees still. Okay, but I don't see a raised hand. So I guess now we can just do next steps and adjourn. I love that this meeting is like been recorded because I feel like this is a little like less organized than some of our meetings, but you know, we've got evidence of it.
You have one moment?
Yeah.
Just wanted to put a plug in. So work plan we're not looking at, but remembering that in December, you have the nominating committee will be presenting a slate, just to put a bug on that we don't want to forget that
So
happened.
yes, and the nominating committee has been, I think we're emailing everybody to say like, okay, what's your level of interest? What's your level of, you know,
Okay.
in this position? And so like if you haven't gotten an email, we're emailing. We will email you.
I just
Yeah, and
want to
so-
say both of the other commissioners that are not on the nominating committee have been emailed. So Dawn and Jason, I saw your email back to me and I'll follow up.
Oh, you did even, okay, because I know I did
they're
not do that email. I emailed Marianne and, okay, whatever. But I emailed a couple of commissioners too, and I have not heard back. But anywho, so yes, we will make recommendations. And so I think we can adjourn. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for hanging in there for this very long meeting.
Thanks for your endurance.
I'll
Zoom is
soon.
hard.
And thanks to our attendees. We appreciate you coming out.
Yes.
Join the commission. It's so fun. And
Yeah,
thank you, Lily,
applications
for-
are due.